Hi, this is Dale with Computer Aftercare, and today I want to show you how to check the performance of your computer using a program called AIDA64 or AIDA64. So let's get started. We're going to use Firefox in my browser here to go to this website here, AIDA64.com, and this is their homepage. And as you can see, they have a few screenshots here. It's used to diagnose your computer. It does hardware detection. It can do software. It can actually do some benchmark testing and stress your hardware to check for like intermittent problems, monitor temperatures, things like that. Anyways, the product we're going to be looking at is called the Extreme Edition, and we'll actually be downloading a trial version of that, which you could use for 30 days. Afterwards, you need to purchase it if you want to keep using it. I think it's about 40 bucks. Anyways, here it says it's a streamlined Windows diagnostic and benchmarking software tool for home users. And it's got CPU, memory, and disk benchmarks, temperature, voltage, and cooling fan monitoring, hardware diagnostics, software and operating system analysis. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to scroll down here to downloads. And as you can see, there's many different versions here. We're not going to do anything with the beta versions. We're going to use this one right here, this self-installing exe package. We're going to download that. And we're going to use AIDA64's download site. And we're going to click save the file, and I like to save it to my desktop. And that should take just a moment. So I'll minimize this screen here. It's not quite done yet. Okay, there it is. So there's our AIDA64 Extreme installer. And I'm going to go ahead and run that. As always, I like to right click and run as administrator. Accept the user account control prompt. And we're going to, in my case, use English. And we're just going to do a default installation. Click next, accept the agreement, next, 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 install. There's nothing special about how to install this program. It installs pretty much like any other program would. And we're going to click finish. And we also left the box checked for the help menu, which is this right here. So if you want some more detailed information about what this program can do for you, you can learn here about the features, getting started with it, the user interface. You can familiarize you with the different windows, how to run reports, how to set up different preferences, and there's even a benchmark guide here. This is when you would get into doing some of the stress testing. Anyways, I just wanted to make you aware of that. So we'll go back to the main window here. If you were ever familiar with a program called Everest from Lavalice, this is like a upgraded version of that. I believe that company is not around anymore. Anyways, as you can see, we have all these different categories here. And there is a lot of information that this can record about your computer. Most of it, as an average computer user, you probably won't be interested in. There's some numbers in here that probably won't mean much to you. The ones I like to look at a glance, though, are like in the computer section, sensor. Definitely, you should be aware of what's going on with your temperatures. Your CPU temperature, your motherboard temperature, your cooling fans, the RPMs, things like that. You should get familiar with what is a pretty normal range of attempts for maybe the time of day you're using your computer, if it's hot during certain times of the day, because that'll be an early indication of a problem like a fan going bad. Another one I like to look at is in the motherboard section. I like to look at the memory. Some people don't actually know how much memory they have. In this case, this will show you how much memory you have, actually how it's being used, and the utilization percentage. I'm doing pretty good right now. My computer's not bogged down at all here. Another one I like to look at is I scroll down to BIOS, and here it's telling me that my BIOS is more than 2 years old. That's a very touchy thing to update. I wouldn't necessarily recommend updating your BIOS unless you were having a specific problem that new BIOS program might fix for you. So you might want to leave this to a technician. There's things that could go wrong here. Your operating system. Now in the operating system, I like to look at uptime. Of course, you can look at anything you want here. Here, this tells me I've had 0 total blue screen, so that's pretty good. I'm sure you've all heard about the blue screen of death. This will give you an idea of basically how reliable your computer's been. And if you've had any blue screens, it should give you some more information about it. Let's scroll down to storage. We can look at what's going on with our hard drives, which would be physical drives. As you can see here, I have 2 hard drives on my computer. It'll tell you the size and a little bit of information about the partition. Now what I'm particularly interested in here is SMART. That's called Self-Monitoring Analysis Reporting Tool. The hard drives have some firmware in it that cooperates with your motherboard. Basically it just reads some information like you see right here in this column here about specs about your hard drive. And over here it basically gives me a go or no-go indication. All my information here says OK. In some cases, you can see a hard drive where one of your parameters is above or below the threshold, and it's showing you that your hard drive is possibly going to fail at some point. And if you start seeing it degrading here, even though you haven't noticed any performance problems with your computer yet, it might be time to replace your hard drive. You could probably clone it at that point without any problems, any data loss. And then you can use that old hard drive as maybe what I would call an imperfect backup for an emergency. Another thing I like to look at here is config. I like to look at the event logs. Now this is something I also show you how to do in the event viewer within Windows itself. A lot of this information actually gets pulled right out of Windows. There are other ways to get info like this. And over here it shows I have an application error. There was a hang at one point. And warnings I wouldn't worry about so much unless they're repetitive, the same thing over and over and over again. Same with an application hang or whatever error you might see. If you see it over and over and over again, or if you actually read the information and it is something that's specific to a problem you're experiencing, well, it just confirms it for you and it might give you a lead on what to do next. Anyways, let's go on. Benchmark. Now this is where you're going to see all kinds of numbers that probably won't mean a lot to you, but if you were to run some benchmark testing, say you wanted to stress your system out later on and see if you could force something out of the norm because your computer is in the beginning stages of failure, then it can compare that against some of these values here, you know, for your different components. Now, I don't expect you to get into this. I just wanted to show it to you. But something I did want to show you here is this section here where you have the system stability test. Let me minimize this. And as you can see, there's some tests. If you were having problems where you think you had an intermittent video problem or intermittent CPU problem, intermittent memory problem, you can come in here and stress your system to see if you can make the problem more than just intermittent. I'm sure you know how it is when you go to a computer shop and when he checks it out on the bench there, everything seems to work fine. That's how it always is. But when you get home, it doesn't work. Bring it back to the tech, it works. Well, this is something that you might be able to get some real info to actually talk specifics. So here you can monitor temperatures and actually get a graphical indication of it. You can look at cooling fans, voltages, power, and here's one that pretty much just sums it up for you, the statistics. Okay, you'll see some minimum and maximum and average values of some important parameters going on with your computer. And if you want to know what kind of CPU you have, you can click here CPU ID. I like to use that sometimes. And In this case, this gives me all the specifics here, especially if you were thinking about upgrading your computer and you needed to know what kind of hardware you had so that you can buy something that would be compatible. And you can save this information. And as you can see, this will just save it as a graphic. You can save it wherever you want. And I'm going to close this, go back into the main screen. Now, I'm not going to get into every aspect of this here, but again, you can look at a summary and some of this information about your computer. I hope you don't overclock. I know there's some people that do that, gamers, maybe people into systems that they need to get every last drop of speed they can, but that's just asking for trouble in my opinion if you want a reliable computer. But you can get a report of everything by clicking report. Next. And if you click all pages, you're going to get a real long list, and you can save it as an HTML file, as we call it, which means you can just open up the file it saves for you with like Internet Explorer. But say you just want to get a summary, that would be a lot quicker, and it might suit your needs as an average computer user. And it can take a moment to finish, and here it is. So I'm going to save this to file, to my desktop. You can name it whatever you want. I'll just use the default report name for now. And that's it. And here's the report. And here's that CPU ID graphic. So if you ever had to go to the store to buy something, or you needed some information to show to a tech, you can put this file on a flash drive, or you can print it out. And surprisingly, it's using a program to open it I wasn't expecting. But the report here will give you a list of what's going on. We just did the summary. It's showing you all your different devices here. And you can just scroll down. Some of this information, like I say, it's not going to mean anything to you. Don't worry about it. If you want to learn it, I showed you where the help information is. You can get to that from within the program itself. It works like any program. They always have a help section. There's that graphic, finally. Let's get back in here. You can go over here. There's online information. There's actually a form as well. And if you choose to buy it, you'll need to enter your product key that they give you right here. And they do get regular updates. Anyways, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you with this program, to give you a brief overview how you can check some of your computer's parameters. So you might discover a problem when it's just in the beginning stages before it gets too bad. Otherwise, you wouldn't necessarily know about the problem until it started manifesting symptoms, in which case it might be too late and you're going to need to replace hardware, or your computer's going to crash and you might lose data, and you know the fiasco. A lot of us have been there before. Me mainly with my customers. My computers, I'm happy to say, are always very reliable. Anyways, that's all I wanted to show you, how to use AIDA64. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is Dale with Computer Aftercare. Thank you, and bye-bye.